Fairfax County Public Schools, students, parents, and families. I'm Dr. Brabrand, Superintendent of Fairfax County Public Schools, and I'm so glad you've joined in this evening to be part of our town hall as we look at our return to school plans and answer your questions via email and phone calls. I'm delighted to have you all here today. I'm joined by Dr. Sloan Presidio, our Assistant Superintendent for Instructional Services, and by Director Jane Strong, who works with our students with special needs. We are here tonight to do our very best to answer your questions, the questions that you have about return to school, so that you can make the choices that we've provided you in a safe and responsible manner that meets the individual needs of your students and your families. I recognize, by the way, that tonight you'll have a chance to call in, and I want to give you the studio number right now. It's 1-800-231-6359. One more time, the number in the studio is 1-800-231-6359. And we're going to work tonight to get through as many of your questions as possible during this time. Please remember, too, to go to fcps.edu and look at our frequently asked questions, or FAQs, that we're updating on a daily basis. I want you to know personally, as superintendent and as a parent of Fairfax County school children, that the decision you're being asked to make is a difficult one. It's a difficult one for all of us. Our goal, my goal, is to give you as much information that we have as possible so that you can make an informed and responsible decision. I hope tonight's conversation helps you do that. And on that note, I want to make a few announcements. First of all, we've heard overwhelmingly from our parents and community that you want more time to make these decisions. Tonight, I will be sharing in a letter out to all families tomorrow that we are extending the deadline from Friday, July 10th to Wednesday, July 15th. I hope that gives you some additional time to take these questions and answers that you'll hear tonight and get a chance to process them. We'll be sharing additional FAQs out during the week. We'll be sharing a return to school video later this week to let you know what school looks like from a visual sense as your children are returning if they choose in-person instruction. And we think that there'll be additional opportunities through both a PTA town hall, a SEPTA town hall, and a Spanish language town hall, which I'll be talking about later, for more information to be shared even beyond tonight. I also want you to know, beyond extending the deadline from July 10th to Wednesday, July 15th, that I am going to be recommending to the school board to extend the beginning of the school year to after Labor Day on Tuesday, September 8th. You all asked for choice. We're honoring that choice by giving you more time to make that choice. And now we need to give more time for our principals and our administrators to implement the choices that you are making. We know that our teachers are going to return to school and to a school year unlike any other. And we need to give them the professional development time to prep their classrooms, to have the professional development training around the new instructional models they have, whether they're doing virtual or in person, and to be ready to serve your children. I hope you understand that our teachers and principals want to do their very best to make this as much of a normal school year as possible in an unprecedented situation for our teachers, our staff members, and our entire community and country. So I am going to be sharing with the board on Thursday my recommendation for a September 8th school date start. I also want to share with you at the beginning of this program some information that came down today from the State Superintendent of the Commonwealth of Virginia and the State Health Commissioner, part of the Virginia Department of Health. They have shared updated information on social distancing. The previous guidance was 6 feet wherever possible. The revised guidance is sharing that if 6 feet is not feasible in buildings and buses, schools should develop plans to include a combination of face coverings and a minimum of 3 feet distance between everyone present. We had already required in our return to school plan that face coverings would be required of our students and staff with the appropriate exceptions. This additional guidance will provide additional flexibility as we look at our in-person plans, and we may have the opportunity to have additional days in school. But we will have to be looking through the final choices that you all make around virtual and in person to make any final decisions. However, this information came out earlier this morning, and I wanted to share the revised guidance with you directly tonight. Now, I want to give you all an opportunity to ask questions. And I want to remind you that we are going to continue to do everything we can to have our students and staff return in a safe and responsible manner according to national, state, and local guidelines. We want to give you all the information and flexibility possible while still understanding that we have to, as part of staffing and scheduling, build in a virtual year, school year, and a in-person year. We've never had to do two separate schedules or create two separate school systems before, ever. We are asking for you, as you make a virtual choice, to make that for the entire school year. We understand and have shared if there are changes dramatically in health conditions, we'll be able to move everyone to virtual if necessary, including those that are in person. And if we see dramatic changes in health conditions that will allow everyone to return, we will consider that. I also recognize there may be individual emergency situations that can be dealt with at a school-by-school and an individual-by-individual level. We want to be flexible, but we also want to be honest with you that we cannot stand up two school systems for the entire school year with changes that happen on a day-to-day, week-to-week, or month-to-month basis. We have to build in the scheduling and staffing for the school year now this summer so that we can maximize the amount of choice that you have for your children in this school year. I want to remind you again about the website for our frequently asked questions. And I think now, speaking of questions, it's time to take your questions. First, let's begin with question number 1. Please give a detailed comparison between the two options between in-person and virtual with curriculum grading and testing. Are they the same? The short answer is the curriculum is the same, the grading is the same, and the testing is the same. What's different is the delivery of the curriculum. The curriculum in a virtual sense will be done 4 days a week of virtual instruction. The curriculum in an in-person, we are able to say at this time that we are committing to 2 days of in-person instruction. The remaining days would be done asynchronously with additional learning activities for your child. That is the key difference between virtual and in-person. They are the same required courses for Virginia. We can't guarantee in virtual or in person that every single elective will be available. We have to look at what our teachers decide. We have teachers of electives that may make a decision because of their health to not come back this school year. And we have to respect that, and we have to respect the impact it has on the choices that we may be able to provide for students and families. But we are going to do our best to provide as much flexibility and choice as we can for both virtual and in person. We will continue to have whole group, small group, and individual supports with whether virtual or in person. We'll continue to have specialized instruction for our English language learners, our special education students. And yes, all of our special education students this year will be served through the IEP process, which has always been a part of our programming here in Fairfax County Public Schools, with the exception of our school closure this spring. We also will have our eligible students for advanced academics able to access level 4 curriculum. Now a question about why are there only 2 days of in-person instruction while virtual receives 4 days of synchronous learning? The bottom line is capacity. Today's announcement from the state to provide additional flexibility around 6 feet to allowing 3 feet if cloth coverings are required, as Fairfax County will be doing, does provide us some additional flexibility to staff the building with students. But for now, we have to go with a plan for having a 2-day in-person approach. We really will also have to see, not only in terms of how we can incorporate the 3-foot distancing in classrooms, what numbers of folks and families choose the virtual instruction. Until we have that information, we can't say that we would be able to provide more than 2 days. But we know for those of you who want in person, You want as much in person as possible, and that will remain our goal. Now let's take a phone call. Caller.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon. My name is Calvin Walters. I'm out of Region 3. And my question is, what if for a child, student that has the IEP, are they going to be given more than 2 days? Or what additional services will be given to them for IEP students? And for kindergartners, are they going to be subjected to only 2 days a week? So those are the three questions I have, sir.
All right. Thank you for your question. I'm going to let Dr. Strong prepare a response or share a response.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Brabrand, and thank you, caller, for the question. So we are going to be having our students with disabilities your families are choosing whether they will come 2 days a week or will be 4 days virtual. Once we know how many students are choosing one or the other, we will be able to potentially offer more days a week. We've heard from families and teachers that they want us to give more. So we are working on planning for that, but we are working to look at the numbers as they come in from when you all make your decisions.
Special education students, our English language learners, those that we know have fallen behind through this COVID-19 pandemic, will be a priority as we look at our return to school plans. And I know that Student Services, Special Services, is focused on doing everything we can once we have the data from families to maximize opportunities for those learners and students that need the help the most. So thank you, caller, for that question. Let's take another phone call, please. Caller, please. Hello.
Yes, Superintendent Brabrand, I believe I am on. I'm not quite sure.
You are.
But if
welcome.
You can hear me, wonderful. Thank you. First of all, I want to say thank you to each one of you. I know that this is a very difficult time, and decision-making certainly is not easy, but I appreciate you having the town hall meeting.
I appreciate you.
Well, thank you. I wanted to know if there had been any consideration to outside distance learning, setting up large theater screens on the track field or the football field and spreading out, the children, and maybe consider having some of the classes take place outside. That's my first question. I had a couple of questions, but I think I'm only allowed to ask two. So that's my first question.
Well, the first question is, yes, we're looking at outdoor classrooms. Now, let's be honest, throughout the entire year, we have to be careful about creating a permanent classroom outside when we know we can't use it every day of the school year. But yes, we are working with principals to walk their facilities, including outdoor spaces. Many have had outdoor classrooms or sort of gardens where those can become living classrooms as well. So we're going to look at how we can maximize opportunities outside, but we also have to be mindful of changing weather conditions if we go into the winter. And we have to keep that in mind as we staff the building. So we are looking at it, and we will do everything we can to maximize student space inside and outside of the facility. What's another question, caller?
Thank you. Yes, my other question is, how are you going to track the testing for the coronavirus? If children are coming in and they're showing that they have symptoms, are you doing on-site COVID testing? How will you really monitor if a surge is starting to happen within the school itself?
So we are going to be working very closely with the health department, and we will be sharing later this week some additional health and safety protocols that I know the community has been asking about that we'll be able to share with you. I can share with you some things, for example, that a student that comes in not wearing a mask will be subject to a temperature check. That's one of the things that we're going to be looking at asking our schools to do so that we really are trying to keep a check on that happening. Any kid that presents with concerns or conditions in a classroom will be sent down to the school clinic, and if they make an assessment that there are concerns, they will be sent to an isolation room. In that isolation room, parents will be reached out to and be asked to come as expediently as possible to pick up their child. Fairfax County is working very closely with us. The county executive, Brian Hill, and I talk on a regular basis, and they are committing to hiring 200 more contact tracers to do those contact trace investigations so that if a kid does present or a staff member does present with COVID-19, that we can track down where they've been and who they've been with. It's important because I know one of the things the community wants to know is, well, why or how will you decide whether to close a classroom or a school or a group of schools? And the answer, the honest answer, has been it depends. It depends on the contact tracing investigation to determine whether that student has been in school all day, has the student just arrived at school right off the bus, and who that student has had contact with in a sustained way at less than 6 feet. There are a series of questions that contact tracers ask. We are hiring more in Fairfax County so that they will be there to help support our students, just like the rest of the community, to keep a lid on COVID-19. And that's our plan moving forward. We'll have some additional protocols to share with you about playground equipment, whether we'll be using it or not, how we'll do recess. And we know those are questions that the community is asking. But we are going to continue to do everything we can working with the health department to maximize testing for our community, to maximize screening here for our schools, and to do aggressive contact investigations when they're called for. Let's take another phone call. Caller. Hi.
Good afternoon. Hello. Thank you so much for giving us opportunity to ask questions. One of my biggest concerns is that I do have a 5-year-old daughter. She's just starting kindergarten beginning August or in the middle of the August. And my concern is that as a parent, if we put her for virtual classes, we're concerned about the timing, the time frame, because we parents we are working every single day. And if the online classes is supposed to be morning to afternoon, we won't be able to be at home in order for her to attend to the classes. So, and I already contacted a couple of different daycares to see if they do have any plan for this situation. And unfortunately, they mentioned that they're working on it, but they do not have any type of plan yet. So that's my concern right now, because I would like to put my daughter for full-time virtual. I don't know the time frame, and there is no daycare, at least as far as I know until now, that they do have plans for it. So what we're supposed to do with our kids if they're going to take online classes?
Thank you for that question, caller. I'm going to let Dr. Presidio talk a little bit about the instructional piece with your rising kindergartner, and then I'll try to do my best on the daycare piece.
Yes, thank you very much, Dr. Brabrand, and thank you, caller, for that question. And you are correct. The schools, each of our base schools, will be setting their schedules for virtual instruction. And for kindergarten classes, we do believe that most of those schedules will occur in the morning block. But the schools do have flexibility to set their schedules. So I would encourage you to reach out to your base principal with any questions about when that schedule might be set in terms of times. And that will still probably be a few weeks from now. We do anticipate that kindergarten students will have 2.5 hours of direct instruction with their classroom teacher, and an additional hour of specialized instruction if they need it based on any IEP needs or English language development needs that they might have. So you're really looking probably between a 2.5 to 3.5 hour block of instruction, most likely to occur in the morning. And we do appreciate the concerns about childcare. So I'll turn it back to Dr. Brabrand to tell everybody a little bit more about what we're doing with the county.
I know childcare remains one of the critical issues that faces us as a community. Really, it's every community in the country trying to look at how to provide childcare so that as many of our employees can return to work and that our parents can also return to work. It's an important consideration. We are partnering very closely with the county to look at first maximizing opportunities that already exist with childcare providers throughout the county. There are openings, and if you go to our website at www.fcps.edu and go to frequently asked questions, you'll be able to find a link to additional child care information to look at. I know, as you shared, many of them have not finalized their plans, but they are standing ready to develop supports to help families make this choice. I also want you to know we are in conversations with private child care providers to look at how we can better maximize child care opportunities for our staff members and for parents across the system. Childcare is a need. I've got to tell you too, now more than ever, we need our communities to step up, to come together and figure out innovative, outside-the-box ways. School systems are doing their very best. This school system, I can say, as superintendent, is doing its very best to do that answer. But we're being asked to stand up 2 separate school systems, both virtually and in person, and to stand up an entire child care infrastructure that honestly is beyond the scope of our ability to do in such a short time. We're looking and thinking out of the box about how we can maximize opportunities with private providers. We know this is an important issue too for many of our staff members, but we also need to continue to ask our community to figure out innovative ways, community-based ways to maximize opportunities through churches and nonprofits to offer child care opportunities for parents who need them. Now more than ever, we need to be that large Fairfax family that reaches out, and not every family has the benefit of an aunt or an uncle or a grandparent to provide child care. We've got to continue to work on it, and I promise that we'll do everything we can to support the community's child care needs to the best of our ability. We have another phone call. Caller, welcome to the town hall.
Hi, how are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
Good. I have 2 questions. One is more like the mental state for the children. Like, how is it fair for some students that are going to be going to school versus online learning? Because I know I have chosen for my kids to do online learning, but I know that some of their friends are planning on going 2 days, and I know that my kids may be left out. Versus online learning, because I know I have chosen for my kids to do online learning, but I know that some of their friends are planning on going 2 days, and I know that my kids may be left out. Versus online learning, because I know I have chosen for my kids to do online learning, but I know that some of their friends are planning on going 2 days, and I know that
So let me try to answer that question. I think we got a little feedback from your TV caller, and thanks for the question. I think the issue is about how to have social emotional supports. And Dr. Presidio, we've done a lot actually about bringing social emotional curriculum in for this coming year. Can you talk a little bit about that to our community?
Absolutely. Thank you, Dr. Brabrand. So we recognize that really all of our students, when they transition back to school in the fall, whether it's in person or whether it's online, are going to need to reestablish those connections with teachers, reestablish those connections with their peers. And we stand prepared to support all of our students making that transition and making that successful. So we're working very hard to develop social emotional curriculum supports that will be delivered in all grade levels so that all of our students will have access to those opportunities, whether they're in person or whether they're online. And we certainly have additional supports through our counseling department if anybody needs additional support and services beyond what they would get in the general classroom setting. So we look forward to supporting our students in those ways when they return in the fall.
Before I take an email, I want to do one other thing. One of the things we've all talked about here in Fairfax County Public Schools is taking an even greater equity lens in every word that we say and every action that we take. I mentioned churches a minute ago. I want to mention not just churches, but synagogues, mosques, all of our communities of faith, all of our nonprofits. How can we all come together as a community and provide supports for families in need? We have always had networks informally, and now more than ever, we need our community to wrap around families, like the caller said, who need to go back to work, but can't afford to have or can't find child care opportunities. So I really hope that we can have our communities of faith and our nonprofits find ways to help support these families in greater amounts than we've ever done before. And thank you very much, and let's go to the next question. How many hours of instruction will students have choosing the in-person option? Well, we have I think it's a 7.5 hour school day, is that right?
About 6 hours.
6 hours. Well, there you go. It's 6 hours and 3/4. And that will remain what we have for our middle and high school as they follow the Bell schedule. And you've already shared out, I believe, our elementary schedule, which has a couple of hours of direct instruction, and that varies a little bit based on the level of grade. Dr. Presidio, you want to share about that?
So that's for our online students. So Just to the direct question, for in-person, the short answer is those students will get 2 days of instruction at the beginning of the school year under our current social distancing guidelines. Again, if that changes and we're able to bring students back more frequently, then we'll do that. But at the beginning of the year, we anticipate students getting 2 days of in-person instruction.
All right, now let's go to an email. Why isn't 5 days of instruction an option? The bottom line is this comes down to capacity in the building to be able to serve all students. We are limited based on national, state, and local guidelines to bring everybody back in person at 100%. That is limiting the ability to be able to provide daily in-person instruction. We also recognize virtually that we have asked teachers, 3 months ago we asked them in just 2 weeks, to do a completely different way of learning. We need to provide additional collaborative time for teachers on that Monday to give them the tools they need to be successful to teach your children. We're also using that 5th day on Monday, which is the first day of the week, to provide targeted intervention to those kids who are going to need additional help, who are already behind because of COVID-19. So those are the reasons. Capacity is the key driver for not having a 5-day in-person normal school year. We're going to go to one more email. Why is the enrollment decision for the entire year? What if I feel my child isn't thriving in a virtual or in-person setting? As I shared earlier, we're building 2 completely different school systems that we need to stand up for the whole year. We can't, if conditions don't change dramatically, we can't shut down one system and leave all the families and students who've chosen that without the supports that they need. So we are asking for a year commitment as you make the virtual option. We know there are emergency situations. We know there are individual situations too complicated to explain right now in a town hall, and we will work as best we can. But I do need to be clear. We can't simply have a preference to change back and forth, week to week, month to month, over the setting that we have. What I would encourage you to do if your child is struggling, frankly, like a child is struggling any year, whatever format your child is in person or virtual, is to reach out to the teacher. Ask for additional help and supports. Call the principal if you're still having some additional needs and concerns to be addressed for additional wraparound opportunities and supports. We're going to continue to bring our whole Fairfax family and wrap around your children to do the very best they can in either scenario that they choose. Let's take another phone call. Caller? Hi, how are you? Caller, you're with the town hall.
Hi, can you hear me?
I certainly can. How are you doing?
Hi. Good. How are you, Dr. Brabrand? I am a special ed teacher in Region 4, and I have a couple questions regarding something you commented on earlier about the extension of the school year and pushing it back. Will that affect the getting out at the end of the year in June? Will that push our date back any later? And will teachers continue to be paid on the 11-month schedule if we don't start school until after Labor Day?
Thank you for that question. I am going to be sending a letter out later tomorrow. I am not proposing a change to lengthening the school year into June at this time. I am going to be communicating tomorrow that while we're starting the first day with kids on September 8th, that our teachers and staff would return at their normally scheduled time so that you and your colleagues have the additional professional development time, the planning time, the time to reach out to families, to make sure that we can do everything we can to honor the choices that families are making. We need to give you that time. That has been one of the things that has always been a challenge in a normal year that has been exacerbated this year. And I want to be clear, Fairfax County isn't doing this in isolation. If you look around, not only the region, Loudoun County deciding to move to after Labor Day, Charlottesville City, Albemarle County, districts that are getting deeper into the work, and Fairfax was among the first to share the return to school plans, are recognizing that as we're giving families the opportunity for more choice and more time, as I announced tonight, we need to also give principals and teachers and our staff members the opportunity and time to be ready for an effective return to school. And I believe that this proposal that I will bring to the board is the right balance. It strikes the right balance between preparation and also honoring more time for families and staff to make choices. So thank you for your call. Let's take another phone call. Caller, welcome to the town hall.
Hello.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, how are you doing? Thank you for taking my call. I'm calling because, it's my understanding that there are many teachers who prefer distance learning. But, I have a high school student, and it just seems to me that distance learning is the more difficult option for him because from reading through your materials, he could be in a large class size, have to navigate different platforms, and possibly he will not be able to take his AP classes, that only the basic graduation classes offered for graduation will be offered. So I just want you to, I'd like for you to address that because it gives me the sense that the school system would prefer for those kids to be attending in person since they're making it so difficult to do distance learning.
Well, that's interesting. I mean, that's feedback, and I appreciate you sharing it. We're not trying to make it difficult to do virtual learning at all. In some ways, your child will have more face-to-face time, though in a virtual sense, with the teacher than in person. So that's the benefit of virtual. As far as advanced programming, Dr. Presidio, could you talk a little bit about the opportunities or in some cases the limitations around virtual learning and advanced opportunities for kids for some of their electives and choices?
Right, so our caller is correct that we have said that we can't guarantee that all of the program and course selections that a student makes would be available in a virtual online model. However, we are trying very hard to ensure that we can maximize and schedule as many of those course offerings and programs as possible. And AP courses are very important for us to make sure that we're scheduling. So we are going to really focus on making AP, IB courses, obviously any diploma requirements, graduation requirements available to students. So we're going to work very, very hard to make that happen. So thank you for that.
We really do. I want to just say, caller, at the end of the day, it really is individual to your student and his or her learning style and learning needs. And I think you need to use that and listen to your child to help decide whether he prefers the virtual environment, which he's experienced for a couple of months, or whether that in-person piece is it. But honestly, we're not trying to tilt the information one way or another. We want folks who feel good about virtual to choose virtual. And we want folks who feel good about coming in person to choose that. Frankly, that was part of the clear community feedback, was greater choice than simply a limited number of virtual folks for those with medical need, which was our original plan. We've expanded virtual because we heard through our survey that there was a demand for more opportunity for virtual. And we're going to do our best to make that as robust and flexible as possible. Let's take another phone call. Caller, welcome to the town hall. Hi, how are you, sir? Or ma'am? Caller, are you there? This is Dr. Brabrand.
Hello?
Hi, how are you?
Great. So I have a question about lunchtime in the classroom. I understand that it may be in the classroom or actually in the cafeteria. So when you take the mask off, there'll be loud talking. Maybe someone might sneeze or cough. So I understand that the virus can spread further than 12 feet in a classroom or even in a cafeteria. So have you guys considered that yet? How to handle it?
Yeah, we're working very closely with our food and nutrition services about opportunities for using the cafeteria or not. And I'll have updated information about that to share with families later this week. In terms of, we want to be able to maximize space for kids to spread out, but we also need to understand that when kids are eating, whether they're in the cafeteria or in class, that they will be taking their mask off. Honestly, part of the focus and instruction will be that we're wanting to limit the amount of time that kids are talking or eating with their mask off, and that will be part of the training that we do with our staff members. But I'll have some additional information about how we're handling cafeterias versus classrooms for you all later this week and before you have the deadline to make a decision. So thank you, caller. Another phone call. Thank you and welcome to the town hall.
Hello. Hi.
Hi. How are you?
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, thanks for taking my call. I have two kids who go to Fairfax County Public School, high schoolers, and I'm trying to take up an in-person class, mostly because of the labs and some of the hands-on classes that would enable them better if they take it in person. But if my children get anxious after a couple of weeks, say they don't want to go to school or they feel something, they feel sick or they're not comfortable about wearing masks all day or something or going in the bus, how much flexible would I have to pull my kids and then put them back into virtual, or would be stuck with the rest of the year for the options that I have chosen? Because it's also the social and the other anxiety we might not know until the kids have actually experienced. We are actually asking 13 years and 16 years to decide something, but only when they go into school and they see what they're getting into and they feel how they're pressured. And I think would we have a say in that, or would the parents can get to decide at that point, okay, you can go back to virtual since it's not suiting you? Is there any choice at all for us?
We're trying to limit those changes once the school year starts. Honestly, we're trying to limit it as much as possible, but we know there may be emergency exceptions. And if it's absolutely something that we have to look at, we would look at it individual by individual student. It really would need to be a very special case to make those changes. But let me give you something that may be helpful. I have high school children too. One thing I suggest right now that you all can do this summer, in fact, you can do tomorrow, put a mask on your child and ask them to wear the mask during the day for about 6 hours and 45 minutes. Let them go online, watch TV, talk on the phone to friends. That can help you figure out whether they'll be comfortable, because they will be asked to wear a mask during the day when they return. So there are ways to begin to create what the experience will look like. They're going to be farther apart from their friends. The nice thing is they'll be in person to be able to talk, but they'll be talking through a mask. So frankly, I encourage anybody with concerns about what it will look like for children to have them go ahead and put that mask on now and have them spend the day with the mask, and their feedback on how they feel about that may help guide you between now and July 15th when you have to make a decision. Let's take another email. I do want to remind all of you too, as I think I've shared at the very top of the hour, health conditions could change dramatically. They have already in the last 6 months. If there's a dramatic change that causes conditions to worsen, we would pivot all of our kids to virtual. I also want to remind you, if there's a dramatic positive change where we're able to safely reopen for all kids in person, we would do that. So we are going to provide overall system flexibility if there are dramatic changes in conditions. What we have to really focus on trying to limit as much as possible is changes back and forth based on personal preference, because we are standing up 2 separate school systems and the staffing levels involved in those are tremendous. If everybody from virtual suddenly wanted to come back in person, we would run out of space based on capacity. If everybody in person wanted to go to virtual, those class sizes are already large. They would become larger in concerns about quality of instruction. So it's a balance. It's a hard balance, and we recognize part of that falls on the choices that you're making now. With the information that you're making, we're going to do our very best to make both of those experiences good experiences for your children. Let's take an email. What online platforms will be used for the virtual option? As far as the video conferencing tool, we're going to continue to use Blackboard Collaborate Ultra, which is what we used for the last 2 months of the year, where we had real success. We also will allow Google to continue to be used as a tool. And so those will be the video conferencing tools. I don't want to get too confusing. There are some platforms where materials will be posted, and we'll still be able to use Blackboard to get to some of those materials. And we'll be piloting a new platform called Schoology in some of our schools as we look at a new learning management system. But in terms of the links for your kids, how they'll access virtually and meet their teachers face-to-face, it will still be Blackboard Collaborate Ultra and Google Classroom. Email we've got is what courses or programs will be guaranteed next year, and will there be any differences between what's provided to students who are on full-time online setting versus in-school face-to-face? The most direct and honest answer to that question is we're going to do our best to offer courses in both models. It is also true that some courses will be dependent based on the selections that you all make. It's still true, even in a normal school year, there were courses when I was a high school principal at Fairfax High School that I couldn't offer because I didn't have enough students. That still may be the case both in person and online. That's no different than any other school year, except now the opportunity for that happening increases because we're splitting our school system into two. That's just the reality. We hope we can offer the same rich choices in both, but because we're having to split, we've had the benefit of size and scale to have so many options and so many opportunities that there is a chance there may be less of it this coming year. But I want to be clear. There was staffing that I did every year as a high school principal, courses that I wanted to offer, that kids wanted to take, but we simply didn't have enough children or the staffing to support them. And that will be the case with either format this year. Let's take a phone call. Caller, welcome to the Superintendent Town Hall. Hi, how are you?
Hi, my name is Donna, and I am just wondering a couple things. Have you guys thought about maybe accommodating, like, for instance, there's a school behind my house where we live that isn't really occupied other than a small daycare, and taking in effect that daycares have been open and full without social distancing, and our COVID numbers have not gone up higher.
So let me take your question first about, are we looking at outside facilities? Yes, as we review our data, we'll look at how we can maximize space, not only in the school, but even between schools, and we could consider outside facilities. As far as looking at the data, I want you to know that's part of what we're doing with the health department, is to closely monitor the health data each day. And it's great to see that right now we have seen a real decline in the number of COVID cases than what we saw over a month or 2 months ago. And we're hoping to see that continued positive, low or no growth in COVID cases. I know that some of our folks, some of our staff members have said, hey, I'm concerned until there's a vaccination or there's no cases at all. I understand that. I wish I could promise you tonight a vaccine, or that there won't be any more COVID cases in Virginia or in Fairfax County or in Fairfax County Public Schools. But I'm not being honest as a superintendent to say that. What I can say is we are going to make every opportunity to make the situation as low risk as possible and follow the data. We are seeing countries, for example, in Western Europe that have opened and are remaining with low numbers of COVID cases in schools or COVID transmission in the community. That is our hope for Fairfax County. I have to tell you, as I, just like all of you, watch the rest of the country, Fairfax County is a unique community. It's a unique school system. And what is happening in one area and what one area's approach or one state's approach has not been the experience of the Commonwealth of Virginia or Fairfax County. I believe we have worked harder than almost anywhere to enforce the stay-at-home rules as we went through the phases, and that folks are acting responsibly now. And I commit that our employees and staff members, and yes, I believe too our families and students, will continue to act responsibly and take the guidance and directives that we are sharing, our health protocols, our mask wearing requirements, and make it part and parcel of the school experience this coming year. If we do all this right and together and we stay strong and vigilant, I think we can have a successful school year. Not a normal school year, but a successful school year to meet the learning needs of your children and all of our children in Fairfax County. Let's take another phone call. Caller, you're here at the Superintendent's Town Hall. Welcome.
Hi, yeah, I have a 6th grade IEP student and a 1st grader, and you had mentioned that maybe days could be added to the in-person. Would there be a preference for those special needs students or for the younger grades where socialization and developing those socialization skills is such an important part of the school experience?
Thank you, sir. I'm going to have Dr. Strong respond.
Hi. So thank you for that question. We are looking at the capacity to bring back certain special needs populations more if space does allow. So looking at, as you mentioned, younger students or students who don't learn well under a virtual option, such as students who experience the adapted curriculum. So those students with moderate to significant disabilities. So we're looking very carefully at ways that we can offer students more time so that they can have a successful program.
Next question. Oh, actually, next is a phone call. Caller, welcome to the Superintendent's Town Hall.
Hi, yes, Cheryl Cass here. I'm wondering if academy classes are going to be happening. And I know it's probably based on how many kids enroll, but I'm wondering if you're going to do them virtually or in person or just can the whole academy program this fall. Also, when will we know about fall sports, marching band, and extracurricular activities?
Thank you. So let me take the first question first. We have no plans to can the academy programs at all. I want to be clear. Our academy programs have been a part of our Fairfax County Public School experience. At the same time, I need to be direct with you that just like every other scheduling and staffing opportunity here, academies offer very unique courses that will be dependent based on whether the teacher is returning and in the manner that the teacher is returning. We hope to offer as many academy programs and classes as we can. We know that transportation will also be an issue. It's always been an issue for academies. So I can't tell you today that every single academy course will be offered the same way that it has before. We are looking at ways for academy teachers to be able to provide both in-person and virtual opportunities, working with the teacher, working with the schools. The academy really is, all of our academies have been rich opportunities for kids, and we want to do our best to maximize that. So we are going to offer academy programming. To what extent, we are going to determine based on the feedback we get from both our staff and from our parents. As far as sports, which I know is a question on everybody's minds, the Department of Ed is working with the Virginia High School League, which governs school districts' play. No decision has been made yet about high school sports. We have allowed conditioning to resume for fall sports, and that is happening following local health protocols. And we're going to continue to keep you posted. I do want you to know, even if your kid chooses virtual, but you really want your child to participate in those extracurricular activities or sports, that would still be allowed under this setup. And we want to continue to try to do everything we can to provide all of that rich extracurricular and co-curricular programming that we've done for years in Fairfax County. Let's take another phone call. Caller, welcome to the Superintendent's Town Hall.
Hi, thank you for taking my call.
You're welcome.
My question is about the 100% distance learning. I have a kindergartner and 1st grader who we plan to put into that, I believe. Okay. But due to our work commitments, they will have to be in daycare all day. And I don't know that they'll be able to attend live classes. I have heard that if they are not in the live class, they will be marked as absent. Well, we had thought maybe we could watch the recordings and do their work to have them keep up.
So you know what? That's a question I don't think I'm going to be able to answer this evening, but what I'd like you to do is send me an email at my superintendent site, and I'll have somebody follow up on that. I think what you're asking is you'd like to do virtual, but because your child's in childcare, can they do that virtual asynchronously? And I'm going to have to go back with our team and get you an answer to that question. So thank you, caller, for asking. Send it in. If you go to the website, you can find my email to contact the superintendent. We have an email here around what special education supports will be available in the virtual setting, and I'm going to let Dr. Strong talk about that.
Thank you, Dr. Brabrand. So for the virtual setting, students will be able to participate in groups or one-on-one virtual face-to-face instruction. We are asking for principals and teachers to look at groups of children, pulling students together at certain times during the virtual time frame of the day to maximize those children who need certain instruction so that students can get all of their goals and their needs met.
All right, let's take an email. Will teachers and students be assigned to different schools under the virtual or in-person option? There is the possibility that as we're doing virtual and in-person scheduling and staffing, there are possibilities that there may be a different school assigned, especially if there's the opportunity to provide that course or that opportunity to that child that wouldn't have been available just within the school. So we are looking at that. I want to also say, even if we are doing a different school, this assignment would only be temporary and only for this school year. We're all hoping, as you know, that we'll be able to have a normal school year again as soon as possible, and these would not be permanent changes to your child's base school. Let's take another question. What happens if a teacher finds out she's pregnant at any point after choosing to teach in person? Can she switch to online schooling? We would work to make every accommodation to our employees through our human resources benefits, and that employee should just reach out if there are concerns when they find out that they're pregnant, and work with HR around those issues. I do also want to just remind our staff, I know there's been a lot in the community. There's been a lot in the community of concern. I want our staff to know we are following the science and we are following the guidance of national, state, and local health authorities. Not outside experts or people who claim to be outside experts with their version of what is best, but national, state, and local authorities are guiding our practice. Just as I shared at the top of the hour, I'm going to take my guidance from national, state, and local. I recognize concerns about people wanting to come back in an environment where COVID-19 is still with us. We have provided maximum flexibility for leave and benefit options through the Coronavirus Leave Act, and in this virtual option, we're even offering the opportunity for our teachers and teacher scale employees to express a preference for virtual depending on the numbers of families that do it. I want all of our employees to be safe. We're going to continue to encourage telework with a revised telework regulation wherever possible. But we need to continue to recognize that we are here to serve our students and community in this time of crisis. The Washington Post just shared its editorial board that we need to return to school. Our kids need us to return to school in a responsible, safe manner, but they do need us to return to school. And we are returning to school, empowering you to make the choice of what's best for your child and for your family. We're going to honor that, and we're going to do the best we can by providing that choice to create as much opportunity within both of those options as possible. Let's take an email. How and when will schools and classrooms be cleaned to meet federal and state safety guidance? We're really going to be doubling up our efforts around our health and sanitation guidelines. We're going to have the opportunity for frequent hand washing, hand sanitizers in classrooms, additional custodial overtime to do additional cleanings, and we will be meeting all of those safety pieces. We will work to share a return to school video to talk about what school looks like, and hopefully we can share some information about how we're doing that guidance. And I know we've just shared a return to work video. I know this isn't as important to our families, but to our employees who might be watching, a full document about how you're returning to work as we begin to open our schools and offices in a limited fashion starting next week on Monday, July 13th. And really talking about how we're going to do cleaning and health and making sure those high-touch areas are really given the attention that they need. Let's take a phone call. Caller, welcome to the Superintendent's Town Hall.
Hi, yes, Dr. Brabrand. This is Cheryl Cass calling back. In regards to Academy, if the teacher does not elect to do in-person and does virtual, but my student has elected to do in-person, when will we learn this information? Because as an Academy student going outside of your normal region, she only has 4 classes at her base school. So now if you take away Academy, what is she going to do with all that time? My next question is, with only 2 days a week in person for such a limited amount of time, how are our rising seniors going to be competitive to get into universities when a lot of the rest of the country is going in person 5 days a week, sir? Thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you for your call. Well, listen, again, we're going to try to do everything we can to have your child have that Academy opportunity. If your child is not able to access it, and again, we're going to look at everything for how that Academy class can be done in person or virtual. If they can't, we would try to work to schedule additional opportunities for your child to take another elective course. And I know that may not be the original elective course that they wanted. Again, even in a normal school year, kids ask to take certain electives, and certain electives are available and others are full. Those issues may be more prevalent this year. That's just the honest truth. We have always had courses that we could not offer. We have always had courses full when students wanted to get in. We've had that every year. This year, that may happen more often, and that is the truth. And I wish I could make that go away, but I honestly can't. I know I should remember the second question, Dr. Presidio, that she asked, or Dr. Strong, but can you remember what it was? Because I thought it was a good one.
It was about how can we ensure that our students are going to be competitive in FCPS?
That is a helpful reminder to me. I would have to tell you that as you look around the country, and certainly the Commonwealth, let me speak first about the Commonwealth of Virginia. The Commonwealth of Virginia, our plan is the plan that is being used by the majority of school districts around the Commonwealth. There may be communities where they decide that 100 in-person, 5 days a week instruction is possible, but I believe those are communities that have seen over the last 3 months a very low COVID impact. Dr. Deborah Birx, several weeks ago, said that this area was one of the, at the time, hottest spots in the country. We have to do what is responsible for our local and state health conditions. As I've shared earlier in this call, we have had really tremendous progress in terms of our health data reporting. Our COVID cases have begun to go down dramatically from just a month ago. We hope it stays that way. The governor put us in phase 3 on July 1st. And yes, Fairfax County and Northern Virginia went along with the rest of the Commonwealth, given the improved outlook for current COVID cases and the lower positive rate in COVID testing. We need to continue to monitor that. We need to be able to pivot if those arrangements change. If they get dramatically better, then we can look at additional opportunities for more in-person instruction. Let's take a phone call. Caller, welcome to the Superintendent's Town Hall.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for taking the call. I have 2 questions. One is very quick, hopefully. My first question is really a verification of an assumption. Since the 2-day in school is only 2 days, I'm assuming that you'll stagger the grades. So, like in other words, say juniors and seniors go Monday, Wednesday, lower classmen go the other 2 days. Is that correct?
We're proposing, instead of that, an alpha approach. That's what we've shared as we're looking at doing the scheduling. There are other ways to schedule by grade level. But the reality is in our middle and high schools, often there are kids across grade levels in a specific class. So our proposed approach is still alpha. Again, like everything else with COVID-19, if there's changes into how we do the scheduling, we'll certainly share them with you, but there are no plans at this time to do the schedule by a specific grade level.
And I'm sorry, I don't know what alpha means. So the whole, like my son is in high school, will the whole high school that opted to do 2-day go in all at the same time then?
Those that are selecting the in-person would come at the same time each day, the in-person kids, if that's the question you're asking.
Okay, yeah, so all the high school kids that opted for it will all go on whatever specific 2 days they are assigned.
Just a slight follow-up on that. The alpha that we're referring to is alphabetically. So trying to make sure that students that have a last name would actually be selected to attend on one of the days. And the way that we would do that, and the reason that we would do that, is that families that have students in different grades or different schools then could have their children attend on the same days, and it would minimize the child care needs for that particular family.
I see. Okay, thank you. My second question has to do with when they do attend school, it's a big order to fill, but is someone going to be at the doors with taking temperatures?
So the health and screening protocols, as I shared, I will be providing that document later this week. Temperature checks will be a part of the protocols, but I am not going to be saying that we're checking every single kid for temperature. I shared with you all earlier tonight that part of the guidance that I will be providing is that kids that show up without a mask will be directed to have a temperature check. We're also going to be working to provide a form for our parents to make sure they are every day going through the CDC list of questions with their child. I know, yes, some people would say this is the honor system, but to be honest with you, we have had the honor system for years, and now more than ever, we are asking families to be diligent and not send your child in if they are not feeling well during the morning as they're getting ready to go to school. We have to be vigilant for ourselves and for our neighbors and community, and we're going to be asking, and again, as I shared, any kid presenting with symptoms will be directed down to the clinic. Those that may have COVID-related symptoms would be directed to an isolation room, and parents would be asked within the hour to pick the child up, and we would begin the contact tracing investigation with the county health department. Let me take another phone call. Phone caller, you're welcome to the superintendent's town hall.
Hi. Hello.
Hi.
Hello. Thank you for taking my call. I am a FCPS parent, and my son goes to the elementary school. So I have a question on these two options. So there are two options. One is a 2-day in-person school, and then otherwise 4 days, like 100% virtual schooling. So those students who will choose 100% virtual schooling now in this July deadline, if the situation changes, and specifically I'm telling like what we all are expecting, that if a vaccine comes in the market and kids, the students take the vaccine, after that, will those students be allowed to go to in-person schooling? I mean, it can be December, it can be February. We all know it's uncertain right now. But if the vaccine comes in the market and the students take the vaccine, will they be allowed to change this virtual schooling from virtual to in-person, or they need to continue this virtual schooling even though they got the vaccine and the vaccine in the market, they need to continue this up to the next school year?
So it's a very fair question. It's an honest question, and the honest answer is we would have to seriously look if a vaccine was here and widely available for Fairfax County residents and students. That would be one of the things that we talked about, having a system review if conditions dramatically change. So it would be on the table. I am not going to promise it today on July 6th, but it would be something I think our entire community and school system would need to look at if the vaccine arrives very soon. Honestly, I would love the vaccine to arrive between now and the first day of school. and we can all hope and pray for our country and world that it will. And right now, we're going to continue to go with that the vaccine will not be with us, but COVID-19 will be. And how can we create choice for families and for those that choose in person, a low-risk environment for their children to learn in person. Let's take a phone call. Hi, caller. Superintendent's Town Hall.
Hi, I have two quick questions. My first is, if a student chooses the in-person classes, why can they not then Zoom in on the other days that they're not in person to the classes that are taking place in person? And my second question is, will high school students have a block schedule, or will they have all of their classes on the 2 days that they're in person?
I'm going to let Dr. Presidio take that one. Do you want to take that one, Dr. Presidio?
Sure. So I think your first question was, if a student is learning at home, why can they not participate synchronously in the classroom activities? And I think the short answer is to that is that in-classroom instruction is not really going to translate to a video screen that could be broadcast into a student's home. We want our teachers making sure that they're providing hands-on activities when students are with them and giving students as much individual support and attention as possible when students are in the classroom, as opposed to lessons that could just be broadcast to the entire audience at home. So I think that's the answer to the first question.
Yeah. The second question is, you're asking about the number of periods. That's something we're continuing to review for instruction and scheduling and staffing purposes. But we want to do everything we can. Again, we will have 2 days of in-person instruction, and we're continuing to work on developing the master schedule that best maximizes that format for our children and the choices that they want to make for the schedule this coming year. Let's take a phone call. Caller, welcome to...
Hi. I have two quick questions for you. First one is, the FCPS, how will they ensure each teacher at high schools and middle schools sanitize all desks and chairs in the 5 to 8 minute period rotation of students? And also, second question is, high school students already picked the next year courses. How can FCPS ensure that the students take courses if it goes against their option of entering the next school year?
All right, let me try to take both those questions. First of all, I would not be honest as superintendent to tell you that every time your child changes classes that the desks will be wiped. We will have hand sanitizer available in every classroom. And children, I think, as part of the hand washing and good hygiene ritual, should come in as they enter class and use the hand sanitizer. We're going to do everything we can to keep high-touch areas as clean as possible, but I'm not going to be in a position tonight or even as school starts to guarantee that every desk will be cleaned between every movement of a child. And that's the honest answer, and sometimes it's not the answer that maybe people want to hear, but it's the most honest answer that I can provide. The other question about is really back to choice. What will we do? We'll do everything we can to provide other opportunities. I want to go back to something I said earlier. There are multiple times, even in a normal school year, that your child's choices for electives or programming aren't able to be met. And that may be the case again this year as we have to basically reinvent the master schedule. The master schedule process starts in January and goes all the way and gets completed in June, almost a 6-month process. We're being asked now to provide the choices that you all want to have to do that scheduling in less than 8 weeks. And that's a tremendous ask. And because we're dividing between virtual and in-person, there may not be as many opportunities. So I apologize now to students and families whose children, including my own, who may not get every elective class that they wanted. We'll do the best we can to match it as much as we can and work to try to find other opportunities. But I still believe we'll be able to create many creative ways of trying to reach kids to get the opportunities that they want for the coming school year. Let's take an email. What standards will be implemented to monitor student and staff physical and mental wellness? What standards will be implemented to monitor student and staff physical and mental wellness? Well, first let me say that we have worked with the health department and we have a protocol in place where we look at student data around absences already to help us determine health decisions and to really follow up with kids who are not showing up. It might be because of a physical issue, but it could be because of a social emotional issue. We've already identified from the spring during distance learning those children and those families who weren't able to connect as much with teachers through distance learning. And we're working through what we call MTSS, or multi-tiered systems of support, to identify those kids now and provide additional social emotional supports when they return for the school year. We continue to have a health and wellness program for our staff that we will continue to do during this school year. And we're going to do everything we can to make people, which we know every single one of us faces through COVID-19, a level of stress. How can we help each other cope through this difficult time? We're going to be there. The Fairfax County Public Schools is going to be there for the Fairfax family, for both our students and staff members. I want to thank everybody tonight for being a part of this town hall. To recap, as I shared, I did announce earlier this evening that we are extending the opportunity for choice for both our families and staff from Friday, July 10th to Wednesday, July 15th. We are giving you that additional time as we roll out even additional questions to the FAQs that are on our website at www.fcps.edu. We're going to have additional information on health and safety protocols for schools available later this week. We're going to have additional videos about what return to school looks like this week. And we encourage you to spend the week and even the weekend as a family to talk about the information, review it with your child, and make the best decision. I also shared earlier this evening that with the additional choice that we're providing and the time for you to make your choice, I will be asking the school board for additional time for our staff to be ready to serve your students, and we'll be proposing the first day of school as Tuesday, September 8th, after the Labor Day weekend. Our teachers and staff would still come back at their normal times to have the necessary preparation for both virtual and in-person learning and the professional development to ensure strong quality instruction for children in Fairfax County in the 2021 school year. Thank you all for participating tonight in the town hall. As I shared earlier, there will be additional town halls with the PTA tomorrow evening, with the SEPTA or the Special Education PTA Wednesday, and yes, a special town hall in Spanish later on a Wednesday as well. I'll continue to do everything I can to reach out to this community and give you the honest truth as best that I can with all the information that I can. That is my commitment to you today, tonight, tomorrow, and for the year ahead. Thank you all very much for joining us at the Superintendent's Town Hall. Thank you, Dr. Presidio and Dr. Strong, and have a nice evening, everyone, in Fairfax County.